Hey guys, welcome back to the Artistic Recovery. I'm Josh. I am a recovery advocate on the team here, and today we're talking about the benefits of going outside. My special guest today is Mr. Ron Seman. He's here to talk with us about, we've all heard it, let's take a hike and what that means for your recovery. So let's get started. Welcome, Ron. How you doing?
Oh, welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. So I am really interested as to what perspective do you personally bring to recovery from hiking? So we're talking about hiking and nature.
Sure.
What's your perspective on that, and what do you bring to recovery?
Well, in my life, I've had close family members and distant relatives, neighbors, friends who have had problems with addictions, and I have been, hurt. Some of them have died, some of them have suffered, some of them have done a lot of damage. However, being a Christian, of course, we forgive them and we try to help them. And so I'm very aware, of what's going on. And through my Christian ministry, work with a lot of people of all ages who've had problems.
So seeing that up close, we're talking today about nature and hiking and walking through struggles with those that are close to you. I'm sure that has left an impact.
Oh, yes.
For you?
Sure. We for example, I had 14 family reunions at the Indiana Dunes. And so all these people would come. We'd be outside for 14 hours. We'd go on hikes. And I could see how it changes. And like last year, I led 612 hikes, a lot with veterans, a lot with just average people. And we see them change. I mean, the people testify through the newspaper articles and things that they physically change, mentally have felt a lot better. Not later I could explain some of the scientific reasons.
Yeah, so you've seen that up close, the actual benefit of saying, I'm going to leave my struggle and I'm going to put myself into this new environment, which is nature.
Yeah.
And so, let's definitely talk about that, because I think that'd be super
And
cool.
this is nothing theoretical. This is actual. This is
scientifically
where the rubber
proven.
meets the road.
Yeah.
I mean, this is it. I mean,
wow.
And so I'm excited to share it. And that's why, people who come, I use humor a lot with them, so they remember things about nature, and it's, judgmental is not a word ever used. I mean, we're just equals.
So it sounds like bringing your faith into the nature walks, into the hikes. Can you, for those that don't know, explain more of what you do for work, what you do for your ministry, and what, specifically what your role is when it comes to hiking?
Well, my background is inventing and computer science, and I won't go into that detail, but other than that, I have had a lot of time in my life to do whatever I wanted. So I started a Christian ministry where I would help people, primarily Pakistan and India, use computer science to reach people. And then locally, so that's globally. Locally, I would work with ministers in the Inglewood neighborhood in Chicago. So that's the worst of the 77 neighborhoods. And so we would go door to door. We'd be on streets. We'd help people. We'd talk to them. Basically, listen. So many people, they don't have anybody to talk to.
Yeah. And
they join gangs or bad groups because they don't have a family infrastructure off.
Right. They're missing that. So it's that faith element like we talked about, maybe, and the family element too.
Right.
Just someone to talk to. And so there is some sort of, whether that be called therapy, a release of just whatever depression, anxiety that someone's held on to.
Oh, yeah.
And so this same effect, feeling, experience can also be had on the hikes. It sounds like too.
So, I mean, if you would like, I could talk a little bit about that. So, the reason, so I could live anywhere in America that I wanted, and I wanted to stay here for a few reasons, but the Indiana Dunes played a huge role. I moved here 25 years ago.
Wow.
And it has what I have pointed out to them, the greatest biodiversity density. So we have all this great biodiversity in only 15,349 acres. Give you an idea, Yellowstone has 2.2 million acres, and they don't have they don't have what we have.
Right.
So it's massive. You can see every ecosystem, every species of plant, insects, animals, and every one of those have live microorganisms we just call microbes.
Sure.
So how important are microbes? You're made up of 99 trillion microbial cells and only 1 trillion human cells. So when you look at me, you see these big old human cells. You don't see that now I just shook millions of microbes off, or,
Wow.
And that is your immune system. It's not your bones. It's not your heart. It's not your lungs. It is the microbes. They are the second brain. They analyze what's going on. They communicate. They cause you to crave things.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I'm craving a hot fudge sundae in this heat. but it's calcium. By the way, chocolate, natural chocolate is actually good. It has
No kidding.
a fermentation in it. So when you're out there in nature, you hear the sounds of waves or wind blowing through the trees, the birds chirping, 375 species we have. And that lowers your blood pressure. Actually, I have a lot of tools with me, like we can measure your pulse and your blood pressure, and we know that it lowers throughout the hike.
Throughout the hike, wow.
And you feel, no one has ever said to me, oh man, I just wish I would have stayed home and watched the Bears lose or whatever. They all are thankful to get out into nature. And plus, one person said to me, well, it's sort of like a social gathering. It's just on the trail. Some of the same people come to some, and we're just all talking, and it's just so much fun. And that's why I do everything for free. As the Indiana Master Naturalist, I know about the science and nature and the history. So
right. So there's actually this physical reaction that the body is going through when you're in nature.
Yeah.
And we're saying that that's one reason you want to go outside.
Right.
Just get outside.
Right.
Just
absolutely.
go outside. Now, here's a question. Does that same experience happen on a beautiful sunny day versus a cold winter day? Like if someone doesn't have access to 365 warm weather, is the body still going to react in a healthy response?
Absolutely. So I hike every day of the year when it was minus 15 and a 30 below wind chill factor. Yeah. So you can experience that all. In that case, you're maybe having a little less microbial interaction, but your muscles are so important to keep moving. So if you sit, you are really impacting your health. That's why people who have a broken hip, on average, they live only 5 years after that unless they really keep moving.
Wow.
Because they're just sedentary and one thing happens after another. So,
and doesn't that lead to the mental health aspect as well?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So people talk about brain chemistry, runner's high and all that. That high is not from the brain. It is from microbes creating the chemicals for the brain. And so there are so many chemicals involved, we haven't even identified them all. I mean, they'll say some in the news media, but it's really so sophisticated. I mean, people are learning things. But I encourage people who love to research to go to scholar.google.com because that is Google's search engine for peer-reviewed scientific papers. So when I talk about mushrooms and their ability to heal, or I talk about plant diversity or any nutritional stuff, you go there. That's the source. You're not reading in USA Today or something.
Sure. So it's also that, finding your pathway. For some people, it could be fitness and outdoor exercise. Other people, it's nutrition. What we're saying is you can combine two of those pathways together.
Yeah. Yes.
And it's this experimentation with what really is going to work for me. Because if someone's never walked outside and gone on a nature hike,
Right.
it may be kind of scary.
Right.
Like, so as a conservationalist, correct? That's the correct term.
Right.
How do you approach someone who's never been on a trail, never been on a hike before?
So there's been many people who said, "Oh, I just couldn't keep up on a hike. I wouldn't slow it down." I said, "Let me tell you the little secret. I go at the speed of the slowest hiker. So if this person is a little bit slower, I'm talking to them, I'm staying with them, and guess what? I give them a break because I do a lot of photography. So that's when I see this mushroom, that's when I see this insect, that's when I see this great wildflower, and I'm stopping. No one knows it's for some other person. So we're going at everyone. No one has ever lagged behind. We don't leave anybody behind, and it's no pressure. We're moving as a group. There's no one 500 feet ahead of time. So it's so we're gearing it towards the whole village. It's not it's not one person who's the great athlete.
Yeah. And so sometimes wouldn't it be, I would think it'd be great to go on a night hike.
Oh, so I do at least 2 to 3 night hikes a week in addition to day hikes. And a lot of people are apprehensive about night hikes because they don't know where to go during the day, let alone the night. But I've been over 50 years everywhere. I know the trails by heart, but I have apps which I explain to people so that you could see this little blue blinking dot. We've actually hiked in dense fog where we wouldn't have known where we turn unless we were looking at the app.
Wow.
But at night, I got the Porter County Parks to now open up their parks for my night hikes at Sunset Hill Farms. We have a full moon hike. We just had one on the 14th. You see the sunset, the twilight, the moonlight, the starlight, and then my laser lights because I do photography
with lasers.
Yeah, line lasers, not dot lasers.
So say if someone's celebrating, let's say it's their 1-year mark of recovery, what a great way to celebrate that by participating in the social environment. We've talked about distraction, positive distractions. So walking, now. I want to put this in there as well. If someone has accessibility issues with getting to the hike, do you guys accommodate for that, or is that?
So first of all, there's some regular people who come. I'm of course the most regular people, but I can arrange to pick someone up. But as far as physically, we have at the Indiana Dunes State Park, as a gift from Friends of the Dunes, 4 all-terrain wheelchairs, all-terrain chairs. One of them has Army tank tracks with a joystick. So those wheelchairs can go anywhere that I'm going to take people. I'm not going to go up the steep dunes, but we're going to go in beautiful places with those. So we've taken quadriplegics where someone will walk next to them controlling that joystick. So they some of these people haven't been out in nature for years.
What a special treat for you, I'm sure.
Oh, yes.
Just to witness that.
And there was a woman with dementia. She hadn't been out into nature for 10 years. And her husband brought her, and he purposely let her be with the group, and he went a little bit on so that she would get to interact with us. And the greatest, of course, I don't accept tips or any money, but on the trail one day, in the fall, she picked up a leaf and said, "Oh, that's so beautiful," and she handed it to me. This is for you. That was like worth $1,000 tip.
Wow. Really, can you remember the moment when you discovered that hiking was going to be beneficial for mental health? Just in your own personal journey and in your walk? So
I've had problems at times with depression, and it wasn't circumstantial depression, meaning everything was going for me good. I had anything I wanted. I had not any circumstantial reason to have depression. So I knew it was a chemical thing. So when I would sit at home, I wouldn't get any better. And so But like in 2005, I got a golden retriever named Aslan. So every day for his life of over 10 years, we went hiking at different locations every day,
Yeah.
all the weather. And when that got me out, I always felt good. And then on the trail, I started meeting people.
Wow.
And that human interaction, I mean, human interaction is way underrated.
Yeah.
There is a good
Yes.
thing. And
Right.
we have energy in our group. There's people who they're not like super athletic, but yet when they come and we're a group, we just move together. It's like there's a string around all of us.
Right. Isn't that interesting? We attempt to have that same experience with our phones. We attempt to, but my phone isn't going to give me what Ron provides,
Yeah.
or the group provides. The woman that handed you the leaf.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
so believe me, I'm the biggest geek there is, 43 years in computer science, but I can't get out of that phone what I can, 5 minutes talking to you, sitting down on a dune.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts about just where we're at in terms of technology and how can you maintain that balance for the youth specifically, young people? I mean,
Well, yeah. So there's a lot of people who are focused on devices like
Yeah.
smartphones,
Yeah.
especially. So I let them use that expertise with holding that, and I teach over 35 different apps that you could use to explore the dunes.
Wow.
So I have apps that analyze audio, so you could frequency and intensity, so we can listen to the waves and see how that low to mid frequency at loud volume impacts us. Then we go into a forest and the level drops from 96 decibels down to 48, and it's quiet and high frequency insects, birds.
Yeah.
It is massaging your brain. It is. I mean, everyone who goes through that sequence on a hike, they just feel so good.
You know what's interesting is that we're talking about hiking. Now, for those that are in a large city or rural America or anywhere in the world right now, what are some practical steps? Someone that wants to reach into their physical well-being, mental and spiritual.
Right.
What can they do no matter where someone lives so that we can say there's nothing holding you back from recovery and even pursuing this idea of hiking?
So you can be. I have a son who lives in Chicago, and you can get out on the streets of Chicago. You can walk. You can meet people. You're not going to see pine trees, and you're not going to see sand dunes. But moving is still very good.
That's
in
important.
that urban jungle. You can get out onto like the lakefront in Chicago. That is 307 miles long, and that
beautiful.
air it's just a runway for fresh air. So you people can eat, right? That's certainly, but there's only so much that nutrition can come from food. So God had Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. He didn't have them in the village of Bethlehem. He had them in the Garden of Eden, where we had the greatest biodiversity ever. And so when you get out to the dunes, that's the next best in America. I mean, that is the best in America.
That's awesome. And for everyone listening right now, you probably know of a really special place that you could say, that's my dunes. For Ron, it's here in Northwest Indiana. But there's probably a dunes close to where you live, too, that's just waiting for you to explore that with a group of friends and to have that social connection. We all need that time to be alone and just to reconnect, but to have that social interaction. So key.
Absolutely.
So is there anything else, Ron, specifically about physical, mental, spiritual well-being that you want to talk about?
So I've studied creationism and evolution for a long, long time, decades. And when I'm out in nature and I explain how trees communicate through the fungal network, and I explain about the woodpecker and how all these things had to happen for it to be what it is, people realize, hey, these weren't random chances. They were created.
Right.
Well, who's the creator? I happen to know who that creator is.
Right.
I'm willing to introduce you to them, and then it's up to you if you
Right.
want to further that. And
Yeah.
we never pressure anyone. We're just here to answer questions.
Yeah. And really, that entry point into the forest, into the dunes, the concrete jungle, wherever you may be, living today, may begin a series of new steps that may lead you closer in your recovery, faith, exercise, nutrition. There's all these possibilities, and we're just glimpsing that today.
And God allows people who are trying to help you to get into your life.
Right.
And sometimes it's just a chance encounter. You're sitting on a bench in a train station in Chicago waiting for the South Shore, and you're talking to someone. That was no accident.
Right. Right.
And so
Right.
it's being around humans, interacting with them
We
in
learn
a
from
healthy environment. Yes.
We learn from each other.
Oh, yeah.
Circumstances.
Everything
right.
I learned was from someone else. I didn't create the learning.
Right. But having that passion for learning never should end.
Exactly.
No matter how mobile we are in our recovery or how expressive or lack of that we may feel on the inside. We always want to be challenging ourselves, having an accountability partner to hold us to that. And so, Ron, thank you so much. Was there anything else that you wanted to add or highlight today?
So I have scheduled hikes, but now more and more people are emailing me or texting me saying, "Hey, Ron, can you hike at Colesbog on Tuesday?" So yes, I can arrange my schedule to hike anywhere, anytime, basically. And those are the hikes that I love the most, are the ones that are requested, because I know they want to do that. So I'm always available, and I do hikes from the middle of the night before sunrise till late night rains, anything. And we said hiking. I do kayaking, biking, snowshoeing, and cross-country
Oh,
skiing.
really?
So,
Well, there you have it. So if anyone wants to go outside, there's no excuse holding you back.
Right.
Ron will go with you.
yes, that's right. I will.
So, Ron, thank you again for being with
very
us.
welcome.
And
My pleasure.
your presence today is a breath of fresh air, so thank you. And if you want more resources like this one here, a podcast or a video or even a blog, artisticrecovery.org is where you can find that. And tune in next time for more episodes like this one.